Hi everyone, my name is Kirsty and I am the person behind Destination Orcas on YouTube. So this is actually my first video where I'm going to be talking about me and what this channel is about. And it's also my August TBR or to be read discussion video. So let's get started. Grab yourself a cup of coffee or tea and let's get nice and cozy and talk about some books, and you can learn a little bit about what this channel is because it's not just BookTube. Cheers. My name is Kirsty. I am 29 years old and I am currently embarking on a journey of self-discovery, of minimalism, of ocean conservation, travel, and reading. I plan to buy a truck and an RV and move into that RV full-time with just me and my service dog. I'll put a picture of her up here. She's so pretty. You can follow her on Instagram. I'll put the link in the doodad down below, where you can find her Instagram as well as my Instagram and the Instagram of this channel. So I have 3 different ones. You can also find down in the doodad the Facebook link to the group where you can join the pod, which is basically the place where people who watch my channel can come together and discuss the books that we're reading, the ocean conservation efforts, protests against animal cruelty, animal captivity. So come together in our Facebook group and I'll be happy to have you. The name Destination Orcas came from the fact that when I get my RV and I get my truck, I'm going to be traveling all across the United States, and I hope to also travel through Canada. But one of the main places that I want to go is Orcas Islands and the San Juan Islands and the islands around Vancouver, Canada, specifically because I want to work with conservation efforts towards keeping the southern resident orcas from going extinct. Southern resident orcas are a smaller subspecies of orca. Orcas are killer whales. They're a smaller subspecies of orcas which are specific to the area just off the coast of Washington and Oregon and going down through Northern California. And they pretty much stay in that area. It's rumored that there are less than 200 of these orcas left in the wild, and now that number is probably a lot less because of captive whaling that happened off the coast of Washington. A lot of that had to do with SeaWorld wanting to go and get orcas for their orca shows, but that's a whole discussion for another time. This video is about the books that I would like to read in August. I recently got back into reading and I got myself a Kindle. This is the new Kindle Paperwhite, and you can see it is quite white. I'm not sure what the brightness level is, but there, if I turn the brightness all the way down, you can still read it just like paper. It looks like a book. And if I go in and bring the brightness all the way up, you can see that it illuminates a lot like a phone, but it's front lit. So what's really nice about that is that I can read in direct sunlight. This is waterproof. I can take this out on the kayak with me when I go out on the kayak and not have to worry about it getting splashed. Obviously, I don't really want to dunk this in salt water because they say that you know, it's fine to get rained on, or you know, if it falls in a puddle or something, but they say not to get chlorinated water all over it and not to put it in seawater. And I live in an area where there's seawater around us, so it's probably okay if like I'm kayaking and it kind of gets sprinkled with some water, but that's also why I have this case on it. Obviously I wouldn't want to drop this in the water, but I think it would be okay if it got a little bit damp in my wet bag, because sometimes that happens. So I got myself a Kindle Paperwhite and I started reading. And in the last 2 weeks, I've read almost 10 books. that's more than most people would read in a year, or some people even in 5 years. So some people even 10 years, they wouldn't read 10 books. So I was looking a lot on YouTube of other people that were talking about books, and I got a lot of inspiration from that. So what I want to do now is go over the books that I want to read during the month of August. So let's get started. The first book that I want to read is actually not on my Kindle. I have a few books that I got from the library which are going to need to be returned in a couple of weeks, so I'm going to get through those first. This one is 5 Feet Apart, and it's by Rachael Lippincott. And there's actually a movie that came out about this book, or based on this book, and I cannot wait to see that movie, but I want to read the book first because the book is always better than the movie. There's hours and hours and hours worth of stuff in a book, and they have to condense that down to less than 3 hours in a movie, often less than 2 hours. So trying to condense all of this depth of characters into a movie that's only 2 hours long, the book is always better. So I want to read the book first. So that's 5 Feet Apart, and from what I understand, there's 2 kids with, I think it's cystic fibrosis, I'm not sure, but they're both in a hospital, and because their immune system is compromised, they're not allowed to be less than 6 feet apart. So I think that's why the book is called 5 Feet Apart, is because romance ensues. But let's see what the book is, but I'm very excited for this one. The next book I want to read is actually by one of my favorite authors. This is Shout by Laurie Halse Anderson. This is the author of one of my favorite books of all time, Speak by Laurie Halse Anderson. And from the synopsis, what I can understand is it's very much the story, like Laurie Halse Anderson's true story behind Speak, or what kind of inspired her to write Speak. So what it says on the back is, finding my courage to speak up 25 years after I was raped, writing Speak and talking with countless survivors of sexual violence made me who I am today. This book shows how that happened. So this is going to be a very good read for me because Laurie Halse Anderson is one of my favorite authors. It is a young adult book, but trigger warning, obviously, that there's going to be discussions about sexual assault in this book, and I'm sure that there's going to be some other kind of heavy topics in here. So if that's something that you're sensitive to, you might want to think about that before reading this book, but I think it's going to be worth it. I'm very excited to read it. The next book that I want to read is also based on has a movie that was based on the book, and I have seen the movie and I have not yet read the book, and that is My Sister's Keeper by Jodi Picoult, and I have not yet read the book. It's one of those big books. I would consider this to be a big book. If you look at 5 Feet Apart, that's not too overwhelming for me. I mean, it is like a book, but this one, if you look at that, it is a little bit bigger. It's not Dune, but it is a little bit on the heftier side, and the print is also much smaller than in Shout. So it's a little bit daunting for me, but I have seen the movie, so hopefully that will kind of help me keep on track with reading it. But I am very excited to read this. Everybody probably already knows what My Sister's Keeper is about, but basically there are 2 girls that are sisters that one of them is very ill, and the other one kind of gets used as kind of spare parts to keep the other sister alive, and it's kind of their struggle together. And I'm not sure whether this is written from the point of view of the sick sister or whether it's written from the point of view of the well sister that's being used as spare parts to keep the other sister alive, but I'm very interested to read this one. The next book, I will admit, I picked this book out because it had whales in the title. It's another Jodi Picoult book, and this is called Songs of the Humpback Whale. And I think it has to do with a couple or a woman that's in a marriage with an oceanographer, and something happens in their marriage. I'm going to guess some kind of domestic violence kind of situation. So she goes running off somewhere, and then he has to kind of deal with his inner demons to try to get her back. I'm assuming that that's what this book is about from the synopsis, but let's see what it's actually about once I actually get the chance to read it. So this is Jodi Picoult's Song of the Humpback Whale, and I'm very excited for this one. The next physical book that I have for you, I have been putting off reading this book, and Steve, I'm sorry. I am not usually one for reading physical copies of books, but I'm very excited to read this one because I actually got to meet the author. I should probably tell you what it is first. This is Ginger Kid, Mostly True Tales from a Former Nerd by Steve Hofstetter. If you don't already know, Steve Hofstetter is a super funny comedian who is most well known for his clapbacks for hecklers at his shows. And he's also got, he was on some TV shows. I think he hosted a TV show. He's been all over. He's somewhat of an A-list comedian. And yeah, I actually got the chance to meet him in Tampa right before lockdown started, actually. So he's one of my favorite comedians, and when I went to his show, I bought his book, and he was so nice. He actually signed it for me there. There it is, KJ. So if you don't know, most people call me KJ. So yeah, I'm so excited to read this book, and I know that this is going to have me guffawing with laughter because he is just so funny, and I can't wait to read this because I was bullied a lot in school. I was a nerd. I was a dork. Still am, obviously, but I'm very excited to see what this book has to offer. So the next few titles are going to be ones that I'm going to be getting on my Kindle, and I was going to try to show you the books on here, but I think what I'm going to do is just put a picture here of the front of the book. So the next one is The Vanishing Half by Britt Bennett, and there was another booktuber that I saw reviewed this, and I cannot remember her name, but she has red hair and her eyeliner is just always so perfect. I'm gonna have to put her link in the doodad below. But this book is supposedly something about a couple of twins that one of them is more white passing than the other, so it's kind of the struggle of the girl that is not as white passing coming to terms with her ethnicity and with herself and becoming proud of herself for who she is. And for today's given climate, I thought that would be a really good book to read, and it's been getting rave reviews all over BookTube, so I'm jumping on the bandwagon there. So sue me. Please don't sue me. No, I'm just really excited to read that one. So The Vanishing Half. So sticking with the fact that I'm reading 2 Jodi Picoult books this month, I'm going to read 2 Britt Bennett books this month as well. The next one that I'm going to read is The Mothers. I don't know anything about it, but it was $1.99 on Kindle, and so I did buy that one. I already have it on my Kindle. It's nice and safe in my library, and I will be reading that one this month. Great representation of a Black author, so I want to try to read that. I don't know anything about what it's about, but if it's anything as good as The Vanishing Half, or what I've heard is as good as The Vanishing Half, then it's going to be a good read. The final book that I'm going to attempt to read this month is our Spotlight on Orcas books. So every month I'm going to read a book about orcas or whales or something to do with environmental problems or conservation, something like that. So this month's Spotlight on Orcas book is going to be Killing Keiko. And if you don't know, Keiko is the real name of the whale that played Willy in Free Willy, the movie. Free Willy was the reason when I was a kid that I started to become obsessed with killer whales. I've been obsessed with them since I was like 2. They are so majestic and I could talk about them forever, but that's not what this is about. We're gonna talk about killing Keiko. So Keiko was the actual whale that played Willy in Free Willy. And after the first movie, there was such an uproar when people found out that the whale that played Free Willy was still stuck in a tank in New Mexico. And so there was an uproar about it. If you remember the second movie, if you ever had it on VHS, then there was a whole big thing at the beginning about funding the release of Keiko, and they actually did manage to do that, but then Keiko died not long after he was released, but in my opinion at least, he died free and he wasn't stuck in a tank. But this book kind of goes into the ins and outs of the politics behind it and Keiko's story and how he got out of captivity, and I cannot wait to read this book. I have seen several documentaries about it, that's why I already know so much about the story, but I'm going to assume that this is going to be a really good read for me, and I'm sure it is going to make me cry, because pretty much every book about an orca in captivity makes me cry. So that is going to be our spotlight on Orcas and Oceans book for this month. Thank you guys so much for joining me today to talk about the August to be read section of my library. Hopefully I will be able to get through all of these books. If I don't, they will get carried over into the next month and I will only have a couple to read in September. That's just gonna be how it is, all right? I am not opposed to not finishing a book. If I just really can't sit there and sit through it, if it's just terrible. I did do that recently with one book. You will have to wait for my July wrap-up video for the tea on that. But that will be coming sometime in the next week. I don't want to do it yet because I have 3 books going right now. 2 of them I am almost done with, and then one I have like 60% of the book left to finish, but I'm sure that I'll be able to finish it in the next week. So my July wrap-up will be coming out in the first week of August, but I wanted to get my August to be read out before August starts, if that makes sense. So check out the doodad below, and all of the links to my social media will be there. Check out the Instagram and the Facebook, and I think I'll also put my Twitch down there. I'm not on Twitch very often, but if you like Zelda: A Breath of the Wild, that's pretty much the only thing that I stream on there besides like arts and crafts. So if that's something that you're interested in, then please go check that out. And yeah, leave a comment down below and let me know what you're interested in reading in August, and we'll have a little chit chat about it over some tea or coffee. So I hope you all have a wonderful day. Thank you so much for watching. Click that subscribe button, bang that bell, so that way you get all the notifications, because I might not release videos all the time. I'm not one of those daily or weekly YouTubers, so I just kind of put them out when I want to. I'm trying to put out 1 or 2 a month, okay? But hit the bell so that you know when I put out a video. And yeah, I will talk to you next week when I do July's wrap up. Everybody have a good day. Bye-bye.